In this video, we're going to install VirtualBox, a free hypervisor, and take a look at some interesting features it has to offer. I will also install Kali Linux on a virtual machine, which I will be using for future challenges like Capture the Flag and so on. Firstly, I went to the VirtualBox downloads page and then downloaded the binaries for Windows in my case. Since I configured my browser to ask for the save location, I will select the downloads folder and then hit save. This shouldn't take very long as the file size is quite small, just a little bit over 100 megabytes. Once the download finishes, I will go ahead and run the file. Unfortunately, the UAC prompt is not captured here, but I just selected yes on the Windows pop-up screen. I will select next in the welcome screen, and in order to keep this video simple, I will leave the features as default and hit next again. A warning about our network interfaces will come up as shown here. I will go ahead and proceed with the installation as it's fine for me to get disconnected briefly. I will also select yes on the missing dependency screen and then hit install. This will take a few seconds to complete, and once it's finished successfully, this screen will come up. Hitting finish with the checkbox marked will start up VirtualBox as soon as the installer is closed, as shown here. Now let's go through the process of creating a new virtual machine. Firstly, we select new, and in the new pop-up box we can insert the name to help us identify this virtual computer. Exactly underneath it you can find the folder in which the files will be stored. You can change this to another hard disk, for example. As an ISO, I will select an image of Kali Linux I have downloaded earlier and hit next. Here we can customize the hardware allocated to the virtual machine. I will be increasing the CPUs to 8 and setting it to 8 gigs of RAM, and then next again. Now on the screen we will set up the hard disk. With the first radio button we can specify the size of the disk. In my case I will go with 90 gigabytes. There is also this option to pre-allocate full size of the disk. This means that if this checkbox is marked, 90 gig will be taken off my hard disk immediately, not expanding with the amount of disk used dynamically. Once you are done with these settings, hit next and then finish. Hey, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment down below if you find this helpful and informative. Much appreciated. Up next is more customization. I will right click on our VM and then go to settings, as shown here. Under general, we can set the shared clipboard and drag and drop. This might be handy if you want to isolate your virtual machine from the network, as with this you can just copy and paste whatever you might need into the virtual machine. Under system, as you can see here, we have a wide variety of options as well. We can change the chipset just in case the VM might be incompatible with this one, and we can also add a virtual TPM chip to enhance the machine's security and privacy. We can remove boot items from the list by removing the tick on the checkbox, and change the boot order by using the arrow buttons as shown here. Under the processor tab, we can modify the CPU count and the execution cap, just in case it's hogging all the CPUs and not leaving anything for the host or for other VMs running on the same host. Checking this option would enable you to do nested virtualization. This means that within a VirtualBox VM, you can set up another hypervisor and set up a virtual machine within that installed hypervisor, just like Inception. This can be useful if you are testing, for example, a Hyper-V replication and so on, since this option would enable you to have VMs within a VM on the same host. One more thing I wanted to talk about is network. And as we can see here, we have 4 adapters, which enables us to connect to multiple networks at the same time on each machine. We also have various options that can change the behavior of the network, and I will be explaining 2 of these, which I use frequently. The first option we have is NAT. Let's use your home network as an example. All the devices you have on your home network share the same public IP address, and internally you have different private IP addresses set for each device. This option is very similar, as your computer will be routing the virtual machine's traffic to the network and nothing can access it unless you set port forwarding. There is also a bridged adapter. This literally puts your virtual machine on your connected network. It will get an IP address on the same home network, and you can SSH to it directly from other devices via the IP address assigned, without any additional configuration. Under Advanced, we can also change the adapter type as well as the MAC address for the machine in question, which might come in handy if you're testing or the OS being installed is picky about the adapter type. I will be hitting OK here to confirm the changes applied to the boot order, and then I will select Start to get the VM up and running. In this part of the video, I will be installing Kali on the virtual machine that I have just created. This will take a few seconds to load up here, so I will speed it up a little bit. The first screen we are greeted with is the language selection. I will be proceeding with the default English here and keeping the location as United States as well, and left the key map as American English too. Once we're done with these settings, it will take a few moments here, so I will speed it up again. As for the hostname, I will name it Sponger, but you can name the machine anything you prefer. And for the domain, I will leave it blank and then hit next. Now I will create a user account for this system. I will name it Sponge. I will also set up a password for my account, and it's best to set up a secure password by following the instructions provided here as well. For the time zone settings, I will just proceed with the default Eastern and hit next. Next up is the configuration of the hard disk, and I will be opting for the guided, so it will use the entire disk and it will keep things simple. We only added one hard disk to this virtual machine, so we can just select continue, and if you have added more, select the one you would like to have the OS installed on. I will leave the setting on all the files in one partition and hit continue. Then confirm that finish partitioning is highlighted and hit continue again. Then confirm the changes by selecting yes and hitting continue for the third time. Now this is where things get installed, and again I will fast forward a little bit. After a minute, you will get the screen to select the desktop environment. I have left it as default and hit continue. If you are setting this up on your computer, after confirming the environment, I suggest you make yourself a nice cup of tea, as the process will take a couple of minutes to complete. Lastly, you will be asked where to install the bootloader. Just select yes to install it on your primary drive and then hit continue. Then select the disk you would like to install it on and hit continue again. Finally, the installation finished and it took about 9 minutes to complete. I will select continue here and wait for the machine to load. On the login screen, I will use the credentials I have set up during the installation and then log in. To enhance the experience, I will change the resolution of the virtual screen by going to View and then Virtual Screen. Here you can select whichever resolution works best for you, but in my case I'm going to apply 1440 by 900. One feature that I would like to also share with you is the snapshot feature. This is the most amazing thing that virtualization has enabled us to do. As you can see here, I have created a snapshot, and this will take like a picture of the virtual machine and preserve it in like an image. Now to demonstrate it here, I have changed the desktop background, and I have also created some files and folders on the desktop itself. Next up, I will just reboot the virtual machine. And once it loads, as you can see here on screen, the files and the desktop background are still here. Now I will switch off the virtual machine, as this is needed to enable us to restore the snapshot. Once the virtual machine is off, go to the VirtualBox Manager. Then on the right side of the virtual machine, I selected the menu and then clicked on Snapshots. From here you can see the snapshot that was taken a few moments ago, and we can select it and then restore it. I have unchecked the Create a Snapshot of the Current State option, as I do not need it for now, and then clicked Restore. Now I will start up the virtual machine again, and this will bring it up in the previous state. And as you can see here, the folder that I created earlier is no longer present and the wallpaper has been reverted. This is extremely useful when applying potential breaking changes, as you can revert back to the previous state and try again without having to restore backups or reinstall the whole system. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for following along, as we will be concluding this video. I'm inviting you to like this video if you've liked it, subscribe if you want to see more of such content, and as always, stay curious, keep learning.